Welcome, everyone, to a slightly unusual global exclusive podcast episode. This week, we're doing it live to like two people. Woo, three people, actually. Nobody could join at this time of night, but I do have the eminent Sinzar with me. Thank you for saving this week's episode, Sinzar.
I am glad I could join.
As For those of you that are actually listening to more than one episode and then never visiting this podcast again, last week we said the dream is off. But now I have to be ashamed and admit I forgot what she said. Where she was going? Was it just vacation? I think it was just vacation. Maybe.
I guess I couldn't tell you.
Let's
I
go
don't know.
with that. Let's. No, a dream is saving dolphins in the Atlantic Ocean on a mission. And she'll be back in a week. We're going with that. We're going with. Anyway,
I'm good.
pretty big banner, right?
Good banner. I
No,
wouldn't call it a
big,
good
big,
banner.
big. I would not call it a good banner at all.
I mean, for some people it is.
Really?
Shadow Walker was pretty excited because it's Final Fantasy XII.
Oh, but my God, but Shadow Walker just has horrible taste in everything. Like, But yeah, okay. Final Fantasy 12 fans would, I guess, be enjoying this banner, maybe.
Yeah, like Vaughn's okay. He's just not great or anything. That's the problem here. And comparing him to like any global exclusive that does the same role as him, they're going to be just better in all the ways except for his Fire Imperil, which is the highest in the game currently. But that's a mostly who cares scenario because of the upcoming.
We will be caring, right? Because, like, isn't it? Didn't you say that there will be trials where we will be needing these monstrous imperils?
Yes, Fire is not one of them.
Oh, poor Vaughn.
Because big brain LM, yeah, you're going to need a really powerful Wind Imperil, a really powerful stacking Dark Imperil. Catastrophe is Water Imperil. For that one, they expect you to crown Nicole. Yeah, so the trials coming up. Fire is not one of the bring a big fire imperils. So,
but
Vaughn is like the only one left out of that whole little niche.
I guess I was gonna say it's nice for Gabranth, the Gabranth fight, but the Gabranth fight is a joke, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's kind of he's kind of designed around the Gabranth fight, also the Omega fight because it's got really high resistances. So they're kind of like trying to force you on Vaughn for the week's events. But you can definitely do both of them without Vaughn.
So, for those of you that are following, so Vaughn is basically Fire Emperor. It's yet another flavor of these. Well, not meta breakers for us in GL, but strong breakers. Let's call it that. With big imperils, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Like like I said, he's not a bad unit or anything. It's just that. If you really want someone to break for you, why aren't you bringing like Kaito for the all-purpose breaker or a specialized breaker like Wilk or Louise or something?
Yeah. I mean, Vaughn has like some support, I guess, and I'm comparing with Emperor. Emperor really had nothing except for Rod Imperil and Wind Imperil. Vaughn has at least something for the party.
What's that? What's that?
Well, he
Mirage?
can do like Mirage. That was what I was thinking about, actually.
I suppose for the times that you don't have like 7 different available Mirage cooldowns in your party from Roberta, Kaito, Sylvie,
True.
Esther.
Hold on. You know what? He has one thing up over Emperor as well, and that's the fact that he can actually do his big Imperil without his SLB, which Emperor can't, right?
That is correct. Yes, Emperor has to wait until minimum turn 3.
Right. Whereas Vaughn does have the Awakened +2 oil. Every Final Fantasy 12 unit has oil. It's 130, I think, Imperil to fire. Vaughn's goes up to 160, I think.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Although it's like 10 turns cooldown, it only lasts for 3 turns, but it's still like it's there, so you don't have to wait. You can do this on turn 1 if you need to.
It actually is really good. It is a long cooldown, but it's totally fine because it basically just exists to hold you over until the SLB is ready, meaning he can do at EX2 a permanent uptime 160 Fire Imperil. Because beyond the cooldown, you'll start replacing it with his SLB every time it's available.
Exactly. Wait, what do you mean? Like you have to be No. Yeah, you're right.
EX2, yeah, because at EX1, the cooldown of SLB is too big of a gap. It'll have a 1 turn downtime.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, got it. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's nice. Like I don't know if you'll ever bring like, will it ever matter in DV that you're bringing Vaughn for the 160? I mean, I don't know.
Um, if there's a Fire Week stage, then I mean, even then, I'm still going to say no because if it's specifically Fire Week, that means its base resist is -50. So
Right,
therefore, a bigger imperil is kind of like whatever.
exactly. It
For the
doesn't
for the
make that much.
Yeah,
Well,
and
yeah,
he's basically a dead slot because in DV you still got to bring that 90 breaker. So he's not even going to be your breaker. He's going to be just an imperil. And by that token, is anyone ever bringing Lena to Dark Visions? No.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, no. The point is kind of that the 99% defense in peril, or sorry, the 89, 99 would be good actually, but
it'd be pretty good.
he has 89, right? He should have, yes. So he has
And
89, but the problem is like the difference between 89 and 90 is still much bigger than the difference between bringing like a 135 in peril over 160 if the boss is already like slightly weak to fire, like you said, -50. Then that's not going to be enough. So you're not going to
pretty
be
much,
using him as your breaker.
yeah. And for example, like your 135 in peril is coming from someone like just make up someone Roberta, who
Right.
is also your amplifier. She's also doing extremely high personal damage, which Vaughn is absolutely not doing.
Yeah.
So yes, I can't see a scenario where Vaughn is like going to make his way into a top Dark Visions team. That being said, I've been proven wrong many times, so it is definitely
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Like he does bring a 250 XLB. Like, yes, that's garbage nowadays. But it's still like it's still not nothing. I guess. Like it's not like you're bringing. If anyone is bringing, I don't know, lock
and
to
and
break.
that's the SLB you're talking about, which is where the 160 imperil is attached. Oh, I guess you could save the cooldown and do that the turn before the burst, and then use the SLB as damage. Okay,
Yeah,
so that
and
works.
he could go out first as well because Imperil comes out ASAP, right? No.
Yes, if it,
Oh, it does.
yes,
It does.
yes.
Yeah.
If he is the first one clicked in all your chaining, then yeah, the imperil would apply before everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, as you said, like decent unit, hard to maybe see full use out of him. Although, like if you're like me, so if you have the exceptionally bad taste in games and actually like Final Fantasy 12, which honestly I feel like that's just fucking horrible. I'm so sad for you. But if you are, like
All
you
right,
could
so
probably use fun.
we are going to spice up this boring podcast because this week is boring. Tell me why Final Fantasy 12 is so bad. I'm legitimately curious because while it wasn't my favorite game, I thought it was an overall good game. Now, people, for example, like people will usually hate on Final Fantasy 8, and I can kind of like see the reasoning for it. In my opinion, it had a lot of flaws. What was the problem with 12?
Yeah, no, no, no. And you know what? Like maybe I'm sometimes being too harsh because you mentioned Final Fantasy 8. I'm one of the people that actually like Final Fantasy 8, although I do see it for its flaws, right? Like it's there are some absolute shit design decisions made in Final Fantasy 8, which is so sad because if Final Fantasy 8, I've always been saying if Final Fantasy 8 had the combat system of Final Fantasy 7, it would probably be touted as like the best Final Fantasy by the people that didn't play Final Fantasy 6 because it would probably be like people would think it's better than Final Fantasy 7. The only thing is it has these crippling gameplay mechanics. Anyway, you didn't ask about Final Fantasy 8. You asked about 12.
Yeah.
So 12 is actually the most recent Final Fantasy except 6 that I have replayed. I replayed that I think a year ago or two. I bought the Zodiac edition. So I have
Mhm.
it fairly fresh in memory. So so the thing is I think it suffers from the same problem as Final Fantasy 8 as in that it has some really shitty gameplay mechanics that make it hard to enjoy the game alongside with maybe I'm being a
What?
bit too unfair, but I think
Well,
the
well,
sorry,
well.
yeah, okay.
Okay. Well, just like explain yourself. Like
Yeah.
you say it has bad game. Like, so are you talking about like because your party basically auto battles with the gambit system? I actually thought that was super cool, and I actually loved the gambit system.
So it's actually not the gambit system in itself, although I do feel that it sometimes took away like grinding turned into an auto battler, which wasn't actually that bad because you could just set up gambits. So gambits work the way if you don't know and you're listening, they're kind of like like a semi simple way of programming your party members into doing specific actions in specific for specific criteria. you're kind of getting them to auto battle for you. So you can run through an area and they'll just kill people. Um, so actually, that's not my biggest problem. I think it took away a bit from the classic Final Fantasy where you want to control everyone, but on the other hand, for like more difficult fights, you were controlling anyone anyway. So it doesn't like you could still pause the game and give your party members commands. What I'm thinking about is actually I remember my first impression of the game when it actually first came out. I played it on release, and I had just played Final Fantasy 11 a lot. Final Fantasy 11 was this really shitty, grindy MMO that I'd spent way too many hours of my life into. And I saw that whoever was designing Final Fantasy 12 really tried to make it feel like a single player MMO. And that just didn't carry well. Everything from like the weird side missions to the grindy aspect of the game just didn't work that well. And then the second part I feel is that the progression system in the game is quite lackluster. People that don't know, it's kind of, I don't want to compare it too much to Final Fantasy X actually because it's not that similar, but it's kind of like a board where you unlock adjacent squares and you don't know what's really behind them, so you're kind of trying to unlock them. But I felt like the advancement system had so little impact in the game itself, really. Or sorry, it had huge impact. Obviously, um, it was just generic. If
Makes sense.
um,
Makes sense.
I never felt like, oh, this is this powerful unit that I am building towards this direction. Everything turned out to be just like, I don't know. Never get like even Final Fantasy 13 had a better progression system. But
That
yeah,
it is kind of true that in the end they were all generic, but although in the early game I felt like the unit, at least the way I did it, I felt the units were like pretty specialized. Because for example, I actually only used basically three units. I would use Vaughn, Bosch, and Ash the whole game. Balthier, Pinello, and Fran literally never came into my party. So
yeah,
I only leveled up the main three, well, my main three, and I built Ash as like the mage. I gave her, the rod stuff. I gave her the black magic stuff. I built Bosch as like the shield and the sword. Then I built Vaughn for the Zodiac spear because yes, I looked up a guide and got
yeah,
the
okay.
Zodiac spear extremely early in the game.
Well, also that also sucked. Like the whole mechanic where like it was random which chest you would get like these OP items in. That was so stupid. I don't know whoever thought of that, but it's also just so fucking dumb. Because like you could also not get it. Which really just sucked. I don't know. There were these crippling decisions, and then the second part that really bothers me about the game is that I feel like outside of Ash, and maybe I'm being even a bit too nice, but like outside of Ash, I feel like the cast of characters is really bland. Like I at least expect some character development in my Final Fantasy games. Um, but like Balthier's character is that he has a British accent, and Vaughn's character, I don't even like. Vaughn is supposed to be protagonist, but like there is no protagonist in this fucking game. Like Balthier
He's
claims he's the protagonist. Vaughn is
Yeah,
supposed to be the protagonist. Ash sometimes feels like the protagonist. I don't fucking know what's going on.
I kind of agree. The worst character by far is Pinello, who has other than
Oh
like
Jesus Christ, yes.
her little 5 minutes with Larsa in the beginning. Pinello had nothing in that game.
Yeah, she's like
Fran,
Vaughn's friend, and like Vaughn is forgettable already. It's like what the
and
fuck.
it's the same thing as Fran. Fran had her little 5 minute section
Yeah,
in
but,
her
but she,
hometown
she's
in the
like the
woods.
thong character, basically. Like she's around to show ass. That's
Yes,
basically it.
but
Um,
she never had any interaction in the story. She really didn't.
but
And
this is
then
the interesting part, right? Because like no matter how divided the Final Fantasy fan base are on the different Final Fantasies and what they like even if you hate Final Fantasy 8 or Final Fantasy 4 or whatever the fuck you hate, you can people still remember the characters from these games in a very specific way. They have a personality, whether it is like the Mega Edgelord Squall, um, or the Mega Edgelord Cloud. Okay, actually, they do a lot of Edgelords. But like people remember these characters, right? Like there's Aerith there. She has a place in people's hearts. There is Terra. There's Celeste. There's like these. But like Final Fantasy 12, like come on, outside of Shadow, like Shadow Walker, like is there anyone outside of Shadow Walker that's actually liking Final Fantasy, like remembers them fondly? Like Sinzar, do you remember any of the characters fondly from that game?
You see, for me, I really enjoyed the first half of Final Fantasy XII with the story. The story is really good. It is absolutely true what you're saying, that it didn't like revolve around a main character, which a lot of these games do. It was like just the story as a whole. And in fact, I would say the story was mostly focused outside of your party. Like you kept seeing like cutscenes to the Empire with Vayne
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
his whole backstabbing thing with the senators and all that kind of stuff. And that was I thought that was really awesome. Of course, where it falls apart for me is, and I've read like it was because of like they got budget cuts or something, but like around the midpoint, after you beat Sid in the game for the first time and you go to the crystal dungeon, at that point, like there is no more story for the second half of the game. Like the
yeah.
whole story just dries up. You'll get like one cutscene per 4 hours of gameplay for 30 seconds, and then you're back to just the story is gone at that point, and that's what really
Yeah,
frustrates me.
and honestly, from that point, it also becomes very linear, like compared to Final Fantasy 13, for instance, where you're just kind of like going from point A to point B constantly. Like you're just doing, okay, now you need to do this, now you need to do this, now you need to do this, and bam, the game is over. I remember first time I cleared the game and the second time in the Zodiac edition, I was surprised when the game ended. I was like, oh, that's it. No, wait, this is the final boss? And because like I really didn't feel this build up either at all. It just wasn't there.
Yeah, yeah. For what I read, the game got like a budget cut or whatever. They basically got rid of half the team or something, or they left. I don't know.
Oh.
I forget the exact points,
Yeah, well,
but
halfway they realized, wow, we're making a really shitty game. Let's just wrap
it
this
was a
up.
it was a good game in the beginning. I enjoyed it. It was really
Yeah,
good.
well, but I don't know, like I think it comes down like it's kind of like Final Fantasy VIII, where if you can live with some of the mechanic, it's fine. Because I remember when the game first came out, I was so turned off even by the early game mechanics of the game, where I felt like there was very little depth in character development, like not story wise, but like in specialization through the advancement system. Um, that I actually put it down for. It was a long time, like it was several months before I then actually forced myself to finish it, which is really weird because I'm a huge Final Fantasy fanboy, and I got this on release. I was like so excited for this game, but I played like I think it's like it was like just after you got Balthier, basically. That was until I played, and then I put it down for several months. So I guess like if you can live with the mechanics and you like them, yes, like it's gonna be a good game, and like any Final Fantasy, it has these pretty cool end game fights in like in the hunts, like you can do some cool stuff there, but really, yeah, I'm sorry, it's like it's just not the best Final Fantasy. It's far from it. It's probably still my least favorite. I'd rather replay Final Fantasy 4, which says a lot. I mean, I know there's a lot of Final Fantasy 4 fans, but it's also a very flat game.
Are you hating on Final
Not at
Fantasy
all,
Four,
not at all.
Eric?
But it's just
What?
early. It's just early. It is early. Okay, it is the first. I'm gonna call it. It's like the first deep Final Fantasy, right? Because like all the previous ones were pretty simple,
I
and
mean,
so
if
it's like
if we're gonna be fair here, the Final Fantasy IV, the depth of gameplay is literally hitting the attack button with your whole party every single fight.
no,
That's it.
for sure, for sure. And what I'm talking about is it's like you have to take the Final Fantasy games for what they are. So like 4, 5, 6, they're kind of in a period. It's the SNES period, and you can really see Square Enix kind of discovering their storytelling as well, because like it's going from this very generic, simple story, and then they're trying to up it a bit and add like classes in Final Fantasy V. It's I'm not hating on it at all. I enjoy Final Fantasy IV. I play. I own it on like many platforms as well, and I think it's great. It's just that it's their earliest real Final Fantasy, so it's also going to be the least impressive one, I guess. Now I hurt a lot of people, I know, because like people grew up with this game and they're like, "Oh my god, are you shitting on my favorite game?" I'm sorry, but it's just it is what it is.
All
Anyway,
good.
Final Fantasy 12. So that's why we hate on Final Fantasy 12. Like some people still like it, and it's okay. Like again, I can't I can't blame anyone because I love fucking Final Fantasy 8. And if I'm gonna be honest, like let me just be fully honest. Final Fantasy 12 is a much more playable game than Final Fantasy 8. If I put it that way, like because like I still hate the pull mechanics of Final Fantasy 8. And the way that you gear your characters with spells in that game is just so fucking stupid and counterintuitive. Where you would want to like, so have you played Final Fantasy 8, Cesar?
And I really enjoyed it, but absolutely not for the gameplay. And
Yeah,
actually, this whole discussion is making me realize that most Final Fantasy gameplays I have not enjoyed, because Final Fantasy IV has pretty shitty gameplay. It's a
Yeah,
great story. It's a great story though.
for sure.
Final Fantasy V, exact same thing. It's a little bit of a weaker story, but it's got better gameplay, so it's
Yeah,
still
I enjoyed
decent.
Final Fantasy V more just because of the class system, because that gave you at least some freedom and to play around with, and I like that.
Hmm. And then Final Fantasy VI, that one had decent gameplay as well as a good story. Seven, I think honestly, I think the gameplay in seven wasn't great either.
Well, I
Like
think
yes,
6 and 7 have kind of similar problems where you could make characters pretty fucking generic. Like in 6, you could, teach all spells to everyone. You could gear everyone for high attack if you fucking wanted to.
hmm
Like you don't, and which is, and it like in the end in Final Fantasy 6, the every unit has their own specific um command, like their own specific class if you want. You never use those really, because in the end it was really
yeah,
like it came down to attack or spamming big damage spells. I feel
yeah,
like Final Fantasy VII was kind of the same. Outside of like limit bursts, or specifically Cloud's limit bursts, all you did was really attack at 9,999 damage or
exactly.
use strong spells. So that kind of kills it for me. So I see where you're going with this, but keep on, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy VIII, same thing. The gameplay in that one is just pretty bad for lots of reasons. But again, the story in eight, I love the story. It had amazing
Yes,
cutscenes, and like
yes,
the CG videos at the time were really good. For the time.
yeah,
But my favorite is Final Fantasy IX because
yes,
very
yes.
very similar to
Agree
what
with
you
you.
were saying is each character was strictly unique, very clearly defined hard locked classes, and I enjoy that.
Mm.
Also, Final Fantasy IX had no way at all. Okay, it had ways, but it had no easy way to just like break the game. For example, Final Fantasy VIII, you can break the game in the first half hour by playing
Yeah,
cards.
yeah, for
Uh,
sure, for sure.
Final Fantasy VI, if you play a low level game in Final Fantasy VI and intentionally not level until you get espers, then equip the right espers for the level up bonuses, and then start leveling up, you are one shotting everything the rest of the game. It totally breaks the game. Now, this is
Yeah,
the player's choice to do this, but the option, it's really hard to resist for like a min maxer like me.
yeah. I mean,
Final,
if you've played the game once, you're gonna do exactly what you said. Like the second time you play Final Fantasy VI, that's what you're gonna do. 100%.
Mhm. Yeah, but Final Fantasy IX had no real. The only way I can think of for Final Fantasy IX to break the game was if you wanted to be really grindy, you could grind dragons on the first beach with Freya, and you could level up her dragon kill ability to deal 10,000 damage per hit. But that is like really grind intensive, and almost no one's going to do that. So really,
Wasn't there like, although you do get Quina quite late in the game, but there was some shit with her as well. I
oh
remember,
my
right?
god, the frog.
The
Yes,
frogs, yes,
you
yes.
can catch frogs with. I skipped that game. I hated that game.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hated the frog
But you
catching
you
game.
can do that. I remember that. Like, and then she also becomes like really really fucking strong. But honestly, I felt like I agree with you here, because I also think, but Final Fantasy 9 didn't need breaking either. Like it's not the hardest Final Fantasy, I'm gonna say. You're not really gonna maybe super struggle with any of the bosses in that game. Not even the end game ones. Or was that just my experience? I don't know. Maybe I just grinded a lot.
Um, in Final Fantasy, I say Final Fantasy IX had one of the hardest optional bosses with Ozma. But other than that, just the regular game, yeah, it was really easy. Then again, every Final Fantasy is really easy just to beat. I mean,
True. Good point.
the games are like marketed for 12-year-olds, so
Yeah.
you
No,
know
no, no. For sure. You're right.
they're
You're right.
intentionally easy.
But yeah, it's a good point. Like, it's really hard to break. I mean, outside of like, I'm sure there's glitches and shit that can probably break the game. But like, as a player, trying to break the game using its own mechanics, I agree. Like, Final Fantasy 9 is one of the hardest one to do so in. I think Final Fantasy
Hmm.
7 is probably the same. Like, it's really hard to abuse it early on. Like, you can start
Uh,
doing it once you get some of the OP shit. But like, yeah,
Yeah, I think Final Fantasy VII, the first time you can really get crazy overpowered is when you get it's been I haven't played it forever, but when you get like the materia that allows you to convert units into stat pods,
yeah,
like
exactly.
Devour or something. It's so long, but yeah, once you get that, and again, depending on your willingness to grind, you can grind out max stats on everyone by just
Yeah, you
converting
can
the
just like,
proper enemies.
I mean, by that logic, you can even grind like the first fucking enemy in the game until you're level 99 if you want
Oh
to. Like,
well, I
like
mean,
it is an
okay,
RPG. So no,
technically,
no, but
technically
like there are
speaking,
limits to it, right? Like you can always
yeah.
break any Final Fantasy game. But for sure. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Like it's anyway. Wow, we're going on. So what do you think about Final Fantasy 10 then? since we're on this topic already, like this train has left the station a long time ago.
10 is amazing, and I would rank that as my second favorite game. I didn't love the story in 10 as much. It's a good story, it's a decent story. I did enjoy, but I wouldn't say it's as good of a story. But the gameplay of 10 is probably my number one favorite. That little,
Yeah,
I'm not sure what it's called, but it's not ATB. It's the take turns in
I
order
love that. I love that. Yeah,
battle
yeah,
system,
yeah.
and you could swap party members per turn. I loved it.
I was so surprised
why
that
did they
never
never
came
reuse
back.
that?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
I was asking
It's
myself the
just
same thing because it was so fucking good. I remember min maxing some of the Dark Aeons and is finally the Sin battle, and like it's like it was so much fun. And like you could use a quick attack, you could use this, and you could see the way your actions would change the order of turns. Kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy Tactics in a way, like where you could do the same thing. Um,
exactly.
I just don't know why that never came back. That's obviously I know it feels like less action than ATB because ATB feels more like I don't know. It's a shame. I agree with you fully. I do understand what you're saying about the story as well. Like it's not that it's a bad story at all. It's a really good story. It's very involving. Um, but I think it's kind of lacking something in a way. I don't know. And then there's Final Fantasy X2, of course, which really shat on the series. I
X
feel
X2, like the story is like the worst of any Final Fantasy game ever, but the gameplay on that one is right up there at the top with Final
it is.
Fantasy
It is. It
10.
is really good. So like actually, I'm gonna be honest and say like I didn't even mind the story that much. Like yes, it's not as good, absolutely. But my
Well,
biggest
Volka,
gripe with that is like I came through the entire game and then I realized, wait, I have to beat this game once more to actually get the happy ending. And then it's like, fuck you, Square. I'm not doing this shit. Like it's definitely not worth it, which really was a big turnoff for me. And it was like it was these ridiculous requirements as well to get the best ending. So it was just dumb.
Yep. And then Final Fantasy 12, unless we count tactics as well, is the last one that I've played. And 12, I enjoyed it, but we already talked about why
Yeah, yeah,
earlier.
yeah. And then there's 13. You haven't played 13?
I have not played 13 or 15. I have played 14.
14 is good, but it's an MMO, so it doesn't really count. It's kind of like 11, where like these two games don't really exist in the mainline game series because they are not the same type of game.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. 13 and 15 are both strange games, but in different ways. I still don't know how I feel about 15, honestly. Like it's so weird. I can't wait for 16, honestly, to see what they're gonna be cooking up.
Nice.
Anyway, we went way off. Like, holy shit. Okay, so we've gone through Vaughn. All right, reeling this the fuck back. We're talking about Vayne now, who has the whole dancing swords aesthetic with 5 blades around him. So Vayne, to me, is a super weird unit because he's like designed to be super weak unless he is against his the race that he's strong against. Is that like the right, like, is that the true feeling? Is that how he is?
Not really, because you're talking about his SLB, which is really high damage against fairies.
Yes.
Um, as someone who has literally spent about 3 hours before this podcast trying to work on the Omega Chronicle using Vayne's SLB, let me tell you, screw those frames and trying to properly cap that LB, because my
Oh,
God,
okay.
is it spaced out and the stupidest frames ever. Whew, it is possible to cap, but talk about you need to macro that shit.
Okay, okay. That sucks. Yeah, I saw that it's like 13 comma 1, so it's 14 frames. It's probably like unique to him or some shit.
Oh, it's extremely unique to him.
Oh, okay, okay. So like if you bring two veins, maybe.
Nope, because it's similar to old like Noctis and all. There's like all kind of gaps in the middle. You need to have a long
Oh,
chain to bridge this whole broken thing.
no, God. Okay, okay. But does he like, so does he have anything else then? Like does he have
Yes, actually, yes. And this skill is almost the same damage as SOB, and this was easy to do. It's called Divine Sword. The problem
right.
with that was it's locked. It's holy lock. It's naturally holy attack, but it's a 6x modifier with guaranteed critical. But in his kit, he has I forget the exact number, something like 600x modifier up for the skill, and because it's a critical, it gets boosted again. So yeah, it's a grand total of about something like 2200x per turn
Okay.
with his divine sword skill. It's relatively easy to cap. All three can fit in AR chain, and I'm saying that because Final Fantasy 12 is all about ARs, what I've been
Yeah.
using.
Well,
But
like every character also has an AR, so it's perfectly
mhm.
fine.
Yep, that's what I've been using in the Chronicle Battle to try to cap. And yeah, that one's pretty good, but it is locked to holy. Also, he has to unlock the skill, which is kind of
But
irritating.
it's
But
only a
it's
single turn, right? Because you use Force Barrier, and then you get it for the next turn only. Well, this and next turn, right?
yes. Or if you want to, you can do double divine and the third cast as force barrier. That way, you can always do two per turn every turn forever. Because when you do that, it re-unlocks it for the next turn and keeps it always
Oh,
unlocked.
that's actually pretty smart, huh?
Yeah, and so that way is better for damage per turn over time. But if
Okay.
you want just a big burst, you obviously do three cast of Divine Sword, but then it won't be available the next turn.
So I know you've been playing around with Vayne a lot on the Omega trial. Is this the method you've been doing? You've been divine sorting it?
I've been trying everything. I've tried Divine. I'm still working it out because I don't have any of the new units at all, and I'm trying to get the 5 turn clear. And so just getting to clear in on this trial, very very easy. I could clear it in about I'm gonna say 9 to 10 turns with Vayne. Fine, no problem. But obviously, I'm gonna fail the turn count mission. I'm gonna fail the death mission because yeah, my Vossler dies every single turn. He just re-raises himself.
Yeah.
So he failed that mission. You kind of need Ash to not fail that mission,
Yeah.
or you need or I'm sorry, yes. So do it that way, or you can also do it with the new Balthier because then you don't cover at all. You guts the whole party and you kill it with Balthier before he does that attack again. So
Right,
yeah,
right. Yeah, it's like it was funny because we were talking just before the podcast, and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't hit that hard. I'm not that worried about this boss, and obviously, like I realized it was made very much for Ash
yes.
to
If you
tank it.
have these 7 star 9,000 spirit Ash with huge fairy mitigation, yeah, it don't hit that hard. When you're using 7 star Vossler with 900 spirit and 10k HP, it's a problem.
Oh, listen, listen. I was using Envy Ash.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you
The,
said
the,
seven
the,
star Ash.
no, 7 star Vossler is the one I was talking. Oh, I
No,
said
but you
double
said
S.
7 star Ash. Ah, okay. Now I got you.
Oh,
Now I got you.
my bad, my bad. No,
Because
no. If
I
you,
was
if
like,
you,
hey, wait, you can tank this with actual old Ash too? But
oh
no.
no, the old Ash is a mage,
Yeah, yeah.
not a tank.
Okay, but that's actually very interesting, and I feel like I what I like also is that units are starting to get decent modifiers for their chaining abilities too. Like I see that he has a 300x chaining ability. Like it's
Mhm.
still obviously not going to do any comparable damage to our big LB
It's
damage dealers and so on, but it's still good.
it's decent, yeah. And also, Vayne, my Vayne, even at EX1, has 8,300 attack power. So at
Yeah,
EX3, he'd have 9,000 attack power while naturally double hand. So I mean, he's an okay unit, but
for
it's
sure.
just like, you're not going to take him to anything other than this Chronicle battle because while he's decent for a 4 star, he's certainly not on like the real unit level, Astro,
Yeah,
Loki.
like not even if it was a DV fight with fairy element, like you probably wouldn't bring
Uh,
him. Like he does double dip a lot, though. I guess.
well, t- well, honestly speaking, in a Dark Visions fight, when you got a 6-man team, there are ways to extend the chain out to fit his whole LB. Now that I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it, 9,000 attack power, 420 X modifier LB. Before, yeah, he,
Wait, 400.
I mean,
How is it? Oh, does he have his own buff as well to the LB?
no, no, you have to give him Typhus' Spirit, which is
Oh
very
yeah,
easy to
yeah. You
do.
were you were already counting with Tyvus. Okay, okay.
Yeah, because he basically caps Fairy Killer by default.
Yeah, because
So
like
very,
you
very
mean
easy to do.
I mean Tyvus and Sylvie on this. Like he double dips on all of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So honestly, he might be worth bringing to a Dark Visions fight if it's a physical fairy
Yeah,
fight.
it has to be.
Maybe.
It has to be a fairy fight because
Oh
half of
yeah,
his
yeah.
LB is locked behind. Like he's still gonna get the double dip, even if it's not fairy, but he's never gonna get up to the high numbers. Then, you
Mhm.
do need like it's not like Balthier where you don't really care if his elements trigger or not, kind of, or if his races trigger. Here, you really want it to, but like honestly, against fairies, this should be good enough.
Yeah. He very well. Actually now I'm curious. I'm gonna while you're talking, I'm gonna look up the future Dark Visions. Do we have an upcoming fairy final boss?
Interesting. I'd love to see some veins being brought. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay, but then we have one final. Well, we actually have two more units, and one of them I don't know shit about, and that is the new Rain. Well, the only thing I know about him is that he is shit. I guess. Is that true?
Yes, he is extremely bad. And real quick, just while we're on topic, 2 Dark Visions from now,
Hmm?
the sub boss is a spirit, is a fairy.
Oh,
So
so you might be bringing Vayne. There we go.
there's a very good chance Vayne could make his way onto the Doom Train Dark Visions fight.
Wow.
Anyway,
Well done. That's pretty cool. I love that. I love that. Okay, but yeah, should we like Rain is just bad? Let's just leave it there, right? Like
yeah,
there's literally
the,
nothing to say except for his STMR is actually pretty good, but for physical
it's
attackers only.
yeah. So every single thing people said on the podcast about the last well we had like 2 weeks ago, Rain, exact same thing. The only difference is swap the magical stuff at last well to physical for Rain. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, not much to say. Cute sprite. I'm gonna say actually. I think the sprite is pretty cool, but otherwise, yeah, not much to say.
Mhm.
So NVA Folka. What about her? Like, is she worth anything? Like, do you want
Um,
to do anything with her?
Okay, so I said in my own news video a few days ago that Folka was really good for mana drain trials, and that is definitely true. Like Belphegor does drain your mana.
Right.
I had kind of forgotten almost a little bit that we're on global, and the Belphegor trial is over in 3 turns, so your mana never has a chance to get drained.
Yeah.
So I guess on global, we really don't need Folka's mana restoration abilities. But if there's ever a future fight that is like, Hisiko comes back or something and mana drain is a major, major issue, Folka is your answer or one of the
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And she's one of these weird units where she gets nothing in her base form when you NVA her. Like
Oh,
her
no,
base.
she does. She does. Her base or the passive. The base that the mana
Oh.
regen is a passive. It auto cast every turn for free,
Oh,
which
I
is
thought that was in the shift. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
that's the base form. Base form.
And she
It's super.
gets some spells, right? Like she gets like flood, and she does get Enwatera, which is not bad. Always nice to be able to imbue in some way. Um, but other than that,
You,
she's like very much the
you
same unit.
You know, I didn't even realize that Folka, because when I looked at her kit, I never realized. So she has water imbue, water amplify, and the 135 water imperil. That
Yeah,
is really good.
that's not
Obviously, it's
bad
not on Nicole's level and all, but I mean, for
for a
a
free for a
7-year-old,
free NVA basically. Or well, it's not
yeah,
free, but yeah,
that's really, and I'm probably going to use that in some budget clears in the future. I
for sure.
totally overlooked that. That's awesome.
I mean, I'm starting to realize just how valuable these non-meta, but on good units or on units with a specific niche are. With Ash, honestly, because like she has Enphira or Enfiraga, I guess. No, I don't remember.
Hmm.
Um, and it's so good. Like just having that on a tank that can do a ton of other stuff. It's just so nice. Like yeah, you're not gonna be doing that for TV, but like it's just so nice. I can't wait to see you do some stuff with Folka then on some budget clears. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. But
Hmm.
yeah, not much more to say. Like I know, like I don't even know what her brave shift is. It's like magic
It's like it's, it's
damage.
like a, it's like yeah, it's a magical water mage, but the problem is her stats are absolutely abysmal for magic. Because she's like a New Vision's Awakening that's spirit focused, and she uses magic, so it's terrible. And her damage, even if she did have good stats, her mods are horrible as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well then, that's it for the banner units. So what we do have is actually a new limited trial, the Omega fight.
uh,
It's
that,
like a chronicle battle.
yes, but actually, it's not limited; it's permanent.
Oh, it's not limited. I thought it was limited.
Yeah, the new Chronicles, they always go in the primary vortex during the first 2 weeks, and then the permanent ones get moved to the like Chronicle tab later on.
I
But
was
yeah,
confused because somebody on Discord was saying, "Oh, but you only have like you can't get this mystic or you can't get this crystal unless you have these units for this banner, and then it's gone." But that's not true. Like you could come
mm-mm.
back to it.
No, no, the one that's limited is the Gabranth fight, but the Omega and the Mandragoras are both permanent.
Okay, okay. So you're not missing the crystal if you didn't shitter a Balthier. You can come back later if you accidentally shitter a Balthier or a Vayne, I guess. Although, tell
Correct.
us a bit about it because you have been trying with Vayne and it's not fully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So okay. So the fight itself is incredibly basic. It's got a 4 turn rotation. On turns 1 and 4, the boss does AoE magic damage. The bosses cannot be magic broken, meaning this damage does basically lethal damage if you don't have the new Ash. If you do, she tanks it fine. The boss counters with physical damage. It can be evaded. The boss does single target physical damage. It can be evaded, and then single target magic damage. It can be provoked. And again, it'll kill your 7-star units. So keep re-raise up. The good news is Vossler can basically re-raise on demand almost. So Vossler, it's very very easy to tank this, but you will fail the death mission if you're using Vossler. Okay, let me go ahead and real quick. Flip Method has actually used Vossler to successfully not die this tank. He did this a few
Oh,
hours ago, but he gave Vossler a vision card. He door potted Vossler stats. He gave Vossler the extremist of whale gear. So I just wanted to get before I get actually yes,
oh.
he can do it, but for 99% of players, Vossler is not going to tank this and live.
I mean, I still feel like the crystals are so rare. I'm not spending them on a Mastercard. Like I just am not to beat this trial.
Yes,
Um, but I guess and people like the death mission really doesn't fucking matter because the only thing people should care about in this fight is the 5-turn mission, right? Because that's where the
correct.
crystal is.
Yes. Now for that one, I don't want to say it's impossible because I'm still working on it and I'm making progress. But I feel like after multiple hours of working on this, with only using Vayne and Awakened Fran and Awakened Old Balthier, I am still about 40% away by turn 5, and it is not seeming realistic. That said, if you have the new Vaughn or the new Balthier, well, okay, so if you have the new Balthier, very very easy. He's going to OTK it when Fran's cooldown is ready. Done. If you have the new Vaughn, that may make it more realistic because he has an 89% break, and the best I'm doing is an 85%, which is a big deal in a no stat fight.
And a much bigger
Um,
fire imperil.
Much bigger fire pro. Yeah, that helps as well. So yeah, so maybe if you have the new Vaughn, then Vayne and old Balthier can still do it in 5 turns. But if you don't have any of the new guys, at this point in time, it seems out of reach as far as I can tell.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I can second that. I have none of the new units except Ash, so the death mission was not a problem for me at all. I was feeling like the trial was a bit of a joke because like I was going in and like, wow, Ash lives through this easily, um, and might have something to do with like 50,000 spirit or something. But anyway, um, but like I brought old Balthier and I brought 2 France so I can give him 2 times the big LB burst and like no way in hell that is even close. At least not the way I did. Like because I only like my breaker was old Vaughn, so no way.
Yeah, the boss has 6 billion HP. I can do 2.3 billion on a burst turn with Vayne and Balthier, but with only one Fran, that's one time per fight for Balthier. And then for Vayne, I can do it twice with Vayne, but again, that's still just not enough. It's still short.
Yeah, yeah. So it seems like it's Balthier or bust, and so you can always come back and get this crystal once you off banner a Balthier at some point in the future.
Yeah,
So I guess
definitely.
like usual tip, if you have the VIP coins, buy the shards at least to be able to EX1 him, in case in case one accidentally lands in your lap.
What
Um,
I actually should have done is spent the 5K lapis for 5,000 or fit for 50 Balthier shards last week. I don't have a Balthier, but that way, if I ever off banner him with VIP coins and the 2,200 from I could have had an EX2 immediately. I
True.
didn't do that, so if I do
Although
off banner him, he's EX1.
Yeah, but although that might not be as big of a problem in GL soon, because we are supposed to get the daily shard dungeon soon. And if it's
Oh
by
yeah.
JP design, we're going to be able to, slightly game it a bit in making sure that we do get some drops. So it might not take that long to
All right.
get, the final shards.
So this is not related to this week, but you brought it up. I am curious. How do you feel about that? The ability to reset the fight.
I think like this. I don't give a shit because I don't have the time to Like I might reset once or twice or something in a day, but honestly, I don't mind it that much because I think what I'm getting is good enough. Like I'm getting a minimum of 1 shard per day. That's good enough for me. Honestly, that's good enough for me. If there are people out there that really want to invest their time in re-rolling to get what's the max? Like 3 shards or 5 shards? What's
Well, the max technically is 3 shards for every unit, so
yeah,
15 shards.
three
But
shards.
unrealistic.
No, because like I saw this Reddit post or something where somebody did like you had to re-roll like what was it like 260 times or something on average every day to get it. I don't know. It was a huge number. Maybe 260 is dead wrong, but it was like you
Yeah,
had to re-roll many times.
you see, for me, now this may get people mad at me, but I think Gumi should change it to where that's not even possible. Because oh my god, because I'm the kind of player
But
on
okay, but would you change it like and just make it one, or would you change it to be like
okay,
just like
so
not like 1 to 3, but you can't re-roll. So hold on. Actually, before you answer that, let me just tell the listeners how you re-roll because many people might not know this, and we're getting this soon, so it might be good information. So the way you
okay,
re-roll is that you need to bring a brave shiftable unit that is shifted in this fight. And what happens when a fight is over is that the unit shifts back from its brave shift to its base form. And during this time window, you have enough time to see the drops you got by pressing menu, right? Like you can see the amount you got. So you press menu and then you see the amount of treasure chests, or not the amount of treasure, but there's like a treasure chest and a number, right, Sinzar?
yeah. It shows you a number, and it'll
Yeah.
say between 5 and 15, depending on your shard
So
drops.
you won't exactly know like if you got 3 Balthier shards or not. You'll never be able to know that. But you will be able to see if you got 15 there, right? Or at least like a high number. Like you can go for
Correct.
9 or
Yeah.
10, 12,
Uh,
whatever.
the majority of people on the JP server that try hard the shards will usually accept a roll of 8 or 9 because that means at least 3 members got a double shard drop. So that's usually what they accept for. But
Yeah.
you know, it's tedious. I tried it once or twice, and it is so tedious, and I hate it, and I never do it on JP anymore.
Yeah.
But on global, where I take it a little bit more seriously, like exactly what Serenian said in the chat. So it feels bad if you skip the free shards, and it feels bad if you put in the effort to get the free shards because it's such a
Yeah.
tedious thing. So I really hope global changes it. Now I thought about this. You know, what should they change it to? Should they change it to just 1 shard per day, period? Should they change it to multiple shards per day, guaranteed? I think what they should do is during the week make it 1 shard guaranteed, period. During the weekend, make it a guaranteed either 2 or 3. That way you still get more than one per day across time, but it's not as many as 5 per day, which would be kind of insane.
Yeah, 5 per day would be insane. Although, you know what I would love to see? I would love to see a way, like maybe again, this is a bad idea because it would be too many shards, but I would think it would be so cool that instead of getting the random shards, you would instead just get 1 coin per NV unit you bring in there, and you can use these coins to buy any shard of a unit you already own, kind of something like that. Because I still feel like the randomness turns me off a bit because even if it's not gameable, I'll still go in there and feel like, oof, I have the worst luck. You know, some people are getting threes all the time and I'm not. I don't know. Although what I'm asking for, of course, is way too many because you'd be able to buy 5 shards per day, which is ridiculous. But I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe like they could even just make it to be 1 to 3 with maybe slightly better rates for a 2 and then just make it ungameable. Although, can they even make it ungameable? That's the whole point. Like, I don't think they can.
Oh, there's absolutely ways to do it. They could,
Okay.
like you said, they could just well, it would involve changing things, of course, but they could make it like kind of like you said, drop a currency. They could make it, a guaranteed drop. They could also just edit the code and not show you the drops, which is another way because they have that. They could change it to,
Oh, yeah, they could do it like raid rewards, right? Like, raid rewards
exactly.
aren't seen as the treasure chest. That's true. That's true.
Exactly. Yes, they would change it to a battle reward, which means you could not check it until the fight is over.
Right, right. So now we're giving them tips to make the game worse, or make the
Yes.
game worse for players. So we're gonna be blamed. Like, you remember when Meme Lord was blamed for nerfing Esther? Yeah, we're gonna now be blamed for nerfing the the rewards for the daily shard dungeon.
That is
Uh,
exactly true. And my intent was not for them to just nerf it and walk away. I want them to change it to make it similar to the players that do try hard and re-roll their shards,
yes,
but
yes,
make it a less tedious way to do that, or in a more
exactly.
guaranteed way.
I would love for it to not be gameable, but for the chances of a 2 drop of being higher than they are on JP. meaning that like on
Yes.
average you're still gonna get a pretty nice handout from the daily
Hmm.
shard dungeon, and you'll never have this problem of, oh my god, I am 5 shards off, fuck my life, 3 months until I actually get EX3, which I love that. Like I'm honestly super hyped about shard dungeon. I think that's gonna reignite a lot of the joy of the game for me, and I think for many others as well, because you're gonna be enjoying units a lot more. So I think this is a great change. I just hope they don't just nerf it to the ground and leave. Let's see. Anyway, where did we? Well, where were we? Oh, we were actually gonna. We talked about the Omega trial, so let's mention the Gabranth fight. So if you got Vayne, you're very interested in the Gabranth fight. I guess like you're interested in it even if you didn't get Vayne. Um,
Yes, because as we kind of discussed, at the current point in Global's meta, I really feel like Vayne can be worth a slot on a Fairy Dark Visions fight, and we do have one coming up very soon.
Yes. So the problem with Gabranth is that it's limited. It's a limited fight. It's not limited to Final Fantasy 12 units though, so you can just destroy it with like Chizuru, one turn kills it like immediately. She just gives zero fucks. Like I love Chizuru. Like I am starting to love this unit so much. But the problem here is that so it drops materials for Vayne's Chronicle gear, right?
Yes, yes, for his armor, correct.
And how much do you need to craft it? Do you know?
You need 300. You'll get
Holy fuck, what?
oh yeah, and you'll get between 10 and 30 per clear, depending on how you do it.
But okay,
Um,
how do you get 30? Because I'm using Vaughn to steal 3 times, and I'm only
uh,
going out with like 10 or something.
well, first of all, don't use Vaughn. Use Fran to steal. Fran quad steals times 4.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, but
Can
her
I do
steals are
both?
yeah, you can do both. But use her normal attack. So give Fran dual wield and quad attack, and then she'll steal 4 times.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Okay.
and then his normal attack with her. Yeah, but so you get add both. But also it is RNG. So even if you steal every single shard or every single silk available in the fight, sometimes you only get 10. It just happens.
Okay.
So when I farmed mine, it took, I'm gonna just throw out a number, about 400 energy to get all 300.
Well, that's not
The
too
low
bad, actually.
I think that the lowest I saw was 11 drops, and the highest was 34
Okay.
per clear.
But
So
I
it's
mean,
very
that's
very
honestly not too bad. That's similar to like Vision World farming, in a way. So
Mhm.
not too bad. Not too bad. Okay, but yeah, you should definitely do this because if you get a Vayne, you definitely want his armor. So like not a must, but it's nice to have. Don't miss it because this is not returning. This is limited. Gabranth
Correct.
leaves after 2 weeks, right? So it's this week and the next one.
Mhm.
Okay, so the only thing left for us to discuss this week after Gabranth is actually a new trial that surprised me. I completely missed this came out, and you told me, Sinzar. So we have a new trial, Belphegor.
Belphegor. Yep.
So it's one of the
It
12 type takedowns, right? So this is a pure demon fight.
correct. Yes. It's a pure demon. He does a lot of mana drains, a lot of health drains, a lot of dark damage, a lot of damage over time. No physical damage whatsoever. Single target death, AOE disease, and that's mostly it.
Yeah.
Um, the biggest thing, duh. He imbues your party with Earth Element, and he absorbs Earth Element. So if you're using physical units or physical mages, that is a very big concern to deal with. That said, he only does that on turn 4 and beyond.
Okay.
And as many people have shown, it is very easy to finish the fight within 4 turns or less.
Oh, really? Like with the damage dealers, I guess that
Okay,
we have like
well,
Chizuru and stuff,
let
right?
let me clarify that. It's very easy if you're like a whale or a
Ah,
veteran or a longtime player. You
so basically,
definitely
you're
need
bringing like Esther and Chizuru and Paladin Sylvie and yeah, okay.
that is what most people have been doing on the 4 turn clears. I actually took it a step further and did a 3 turn clear using Starlight Elena.
Wow, wait, what? Why?
Yeah, Starlight Elena. We mean she's like one of the highest damage dealers on global now.
True. I guess like it's just so hard to yeah. Yes, but yeah,
It,
okay.
it, it is hard to gear her. No, yes. Okay. So again, let me clarify. So the boss does tons and tons of dark damage, as I mentioned. You need 400 dark resist on your entire party.
Oh, your
The
entire
dark,
party because he does a lot of cover ignoring, I guess, or
yes, cover ignoring dark damage. Yep.
okay.
Um, that being said, Once again, if you're able to clear the fight extremely quickly, as in 3 turns, he does no dark damage on turn 1. On turn 2, the dark damage begins. I used Carton for Dark Absorb on turn 2. So
Oof. Yeah, okay.
don't
I
need it
don't
on
have carton.
don't need it on turn 1. Turn 2, we absorb the party. We killed him on turn 3. If I had not killed the boss on turn 3, the party I used would have all dropped dead.
But okay,
But
but listen. What if I don't care about a fast clear? Well, obviously I care about the 12 turn clear, but I feel that's going to be a joke. Um,
it's the mission is for 15 turns for hard mode.
oh, sorry, 15 turns for hard mode. Yeah. But I feel like if I brought like you know Oliveira to this,
Yes.
maybe Renoa, I would probably destroy it as well.
That was my first clear. I used one single Oliveira as the only damage dealer, and he did it in 9 or 10 turns by
Okay.
himself.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so it's super easy on global.
Okay. So like you don't have to do this way like you do this whaley stuff if you want to do it with physical damage dealers. Well, either that or past turn 4 you need a way to dispel the imbues. Which like you can use Elrix for that, right? Elrix still can do
You
that.
you can, and I talked about that a little bit. Um, Honestly speaking, the boss only imbues every 4 turns, and as much as I love Full Metal Alchemist, Elrics are just outdated, and I don't feel it's worth a slot for that. It's easier to just literally dispel your entire party's buffs and rebuff. That way, you're
Yeah.
not bringing Elric to sit
Yeah, if
there
it's
and do.
just once every 4 turns, that is easier. Like
Yes,
dispelling
it
is
really,
not that
really is.
not that much of a especially since like would like someone like Roberta with her dispel, does that remove
Yes,
because she has a party
yes.
dispel.
Yep, and she is amazing for this because the boss is weak to fire. So she can dispel your party and in the same action reapply all the buffs, amplifies, um, imbues, etc., as well as a stat buff with her buff stuff.
Right.
So, but you, but and then you can also time it to where then you like do the LB of Runda at the same time, and boom, you're completely rebuffed in one action, and the imbue is gone. So
There
yes,
we go. There we go. So do you even need a tank? Like I guess a single target tank then? Or does he do some coverable AoEs as well?
uh, technically speaking, the dark AoE is coverable, but it also ignores cover as well. There's different AoEs. Some
Okay.
ignore cover, some don't. And because you have to gear for immunity to the cover ignoring ones anyway, there's no point to covering the other dark ones because you're immune. So what's the
Yeah, of
point?
course. Of
So
course.
yeah, so there's really no need for a cover tank, but you do want a provoker. He does lots of single target attacks that the provoker wants to deal with.
But
It
they
doesn't need.
were evadable, right? You said so
No,
before.
no, he does
No?
no physical damage. No physical damage at all. It's all magic,
Oh,
magic or fixed.
so I
That
mean,
being
but
said,
but if you're like bringing Paladin Sylvie with like a ton of spirit, maybe she can do it.
yes, I was just gonna say that. In my
Okay.
Olivera clear, I just provoked it with Sylvie. No problem, easy.
Okay. Nice. So I guess like then the big problem here is gearing everyone for 400 dark resist after buffs. What is our biggest buff? Or I guess like Sylvie is probably the best one with 80 since you're
Uh,
bringing her.
well, there are some units that have 100% buffs. Well, Sylvie does on her LB, for example.
Oh, sure.
Verenas of the Dark has it, permanent on the whole party.
Although you are
Some other units.
dispelling yourself, but yeah, so you do want to reapply it easily.
Yeah, some other units do, but honestly, because Sylvie's so good, just use Sylvie's on demand 80% and gear for 320%. That being said, also another option is Carton to just
Yeah.
literally LB every single turn. That is a little tricky to pull off, but can be done. Um, some other options are to just use like bulky units and not need full immunity, just gear for high but not complete immunity. That's
Yeah.
fine too.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, interesting. I guess like yeah. Uh, I'm probably gonna do it with Oliveira. I feel like Oliveira. Maybe add a Renoa too to make it do it a bit faster, just because I like
Mhm.
Renoa.
And
Um,
just keep in mind too, as just a reminder for players, that imbue we talked about, the Earth imbue. Remember, mages can completely ignore it. Like
yeah,
Oliveira does not care.
yeah, exactly. Oliveira does pure magic damage. Renoa does pure magic damage. I guess Dark Rain doesn't give a fuck either. If
Correct.
you're bringing
Dark
him,
Rain is there's the funny thing. My EX3 Dark Rain with a friend EX3 Dark Rain with premium Dark Fina with Renoa and with Javi all supporting took 15 turns exactly to clear it in JP. That is the level of
whoa,
power difference of JP versus global.
holy crap! All right. Well, I mean, Oliveira is strong, I guess. Like a
It's very
simple.
strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem is SLBs are just garbage, and
Yeah.
Rain is like hard limited by SLB. He only DPS once per 3 turns. Oliveira every single turn DPSs every single turn.
Yeah, exactly. DPT is going to be much higher. Like, for sure, of course, Dark Rain. Well, I'm not even sure Dark Rain bursts harder
Oh, he
anymore.
doesn't. Not even close. Oliveira is like way higher than Dark Rain now
Yeah,
with his
and
intrinsic
every turn, which
and
is
every
sick.
turn. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's
No, but
amazing.
I'm definitely doing Oliveira Renoa for the support, and also to throw some apocalypses in there. Even though I hate chaining apocalypse because like you have to wait for like 15 seconds or some shit before you send the first unit, which is ridiculous. Uh,
Now, I totally don't want to like downplay your favorite unit Renault, but if we're just talking like tips and all, this boss has low dark resist, meaning Renault's field is barely doing anything. If you're wanting to increase damage,
so you're
Yuna would be
bringing
a
Yuna.
way
Ah,
would
okay,
be a
okay.
way
Well,
better
you
option.
know what, fucker? I'm gonna bring Yuna and Renoa.
That's
Actually,
an
that doesn't
option
make
too.
sense though. Well, actually,
No, it does.
I
It
don't have
does.
to. I don't have to summon with Renoa, right? No.
Well, they're field stacked. They're field
Oh,
stacked. You
they
can run
do.
both.
Yeah, exactly. Because Yuna's you only need on your side, and but you need to do it in the right order, right? Because you want to do
Yes.
like Yuna
I
first, then
Oh no
Renoa.
no 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 no. Renoa's is literally only left. Yuna's is only right. So those two
Oh,
will never interrupt each other, no matter what order you do it.
excellent. Then I'm bringing both. I'm bringing both and destroying this with Oliveira. I can't wait, actually. The other thing I love with Oliveira is that there is literally no whale gearing for this unit because everybody, well, some of it is time limited, but basically everybody has the mana, the MP stuff that he needs for this.
Uh, the comments in my YouTube section would disagree. Oh my
Really?
god, Barrows. Yes, because
But I feel like there
everyone
is
these
so
days.
much MP gear. Like, how could you have missed some of the MP gear?
Well, the gear, sure, but the big needed piece of Oliveira is the Dazzling Demoness card.
Well, yes, but come on, like
I mean,
that I wouldn't
that's
even
a
count
pretty
that
big
as
deal, dude.
whale because if you had some lapis when that came out, you could have just guaranteed it. You could do what I did and pull out your fucking credit card and get it. It's like I don't want to count that as whale gear. You know what I count as whale? That's like having 4 esters at level 130, or like that's whale.
Like,
But
uh,
okay, dazzling. I mean, as long as you have dazzling demoness, like Oliveira is gonna be really strong.
yes, he's extremely easy to gear outside of the Dazzling Demoness card, and I told everyone when that card came out how good this card was.
Yeah,
Don't
I
pass
mean,
it.
you cost my daughter toys that month, okay? Because
Uh,
you told me
I'm
how good that card was, and I'm like, okay, all right, I need this.
it's gonna be so good going forward too. There's a unit coming in the future. I don't want to talk about it for reasons, but
Okay,
it's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so good.
with the dazzling. Okay, very cool. I love it because when you're saying it like that, that also means that unit is a mage, and I really like mages. So hey, bring it, bring it, bring it. Man, I just hope, like, you know what, Sinzar, I need to say something because I'm so excited for myself. But I have 20,000 lapis. I have 20,000 lapis, Sinzar.
But we've got Clash of Wills coming soon. What are you gonna do?
Like, I'm gonna be hard staring at pictures of Edgar, Sabin, and Ellie, and really trying to channel, not pulling for whatever the fuck they're throwing at us. And it's, you know what? It's probably going to be another fucking Sylvie. I can feel it. It's gonna be Sylvie for the other elements.
Maybe.
That would be pretty fucking strong. Let's see.
I,
Let's
I,
see.
I, I doubt it's going to be Sylvie tier anytime soon, though. That was like a big anniversary unit. So,
Well, I think it's stupid if it's not another Sylvie though, because then we have this super duper strong one unit. That I don't know, like I don't know. I thought they laid it up so that Sylvie does a couple of elements, and then there's going to be another unit that does more killers and more elements. But if they don't, then Sylvie is such a must-have. Like, holy shit!
it's true. I get what you're saying. Although at the same time, I'm kind of glad Global doesn't do it exactly that way because JP does, and everyone hates it. JP says, "Oh, here's the next flavor of the exact same breaker. Here's Edge. Here's Tulian. Here's Rake, and they're all the exact same unit. All they're swapping is the element." So I'm glad Global doesn't do that and just give us Sylvie, but water. I'm glad Global does it. Now they do similar things. For example, you have the four killers on Ling. They did
Yeah.
the four killers on Roberta, the four killers on Bulwark. So that they do kind of follow a pattern, but at the very least, when you compare Ling to Roberta, like there is other than both buffing four different killers, there is no comparison. But that's very different units, and I like that.
Yeah, true, true. I mean, but that's kind of what I'm going for. Like, I would like another 100% Amper, and that doesn't have to be like a super versatile, super powerful unit like Sylvie that does everything. It could be a less useful unit, but that could still do 100% amp for a different element. So that I didn't miss Sylvie, but if I know people did, and I th-
Mhm.
I feel like those people are probably feeling like shit when DV rolls around. Well, and Cow as well, obviously. Well, I guess depends on elements, but yeah. I
Well,
mean, you're bringing
considering
Sylvie anyway.
Yeah, considering they had Sylvie with the 100% AoEs, and then they had Chizuru for the self only 100%. I would bet money that from going forward, basically every single global exclusive is going to either have a self only 100% amp, or for the support units, probably an AoE 100% amps.
Yeah.
I would say that's a pretty safe
Maybe
assumption.
for sure. Maybe. I mean, one thing, yeah. I don't know, like what classes we haven't gotten a lot of, but we could get another healer. Kresnik is the only cow healer we've gotten. Maybe time to start creeping him because that fucker is really hard to not put in teams unless you have. You know what? We need a fucking Chow replacement. All right, they have broken the game by not understanding their own game, and Chow fucking sucks. Like it's a cool unit, but like it fucking sucks for cow and like for the mechanic or for the content type. We really need something to replace Chow. Honestly, we really do.
I kind of agree, but we haven't really used Chow that much. At least last month we did. Like he was usable, and some people did. I think I even did one clear just to use the Chow clear, but he wasn't really like a
But the
good
problem
pick
with
last month.
Chow is like this. He's a must if it's hard to get morale. If it's easy to get morale, then you don't care, right? But then it's also easy to get morale. So you can basically use
Oh,
anything.
yeah, I'm just remembering the reason morale wasn't a problem is because we had that Morgana rod that has now been nerfed. So
Yeah.
that is not going to be here in
So
one or
let's
two
see.
weeks when
Let's
Clash
see.
rolls around.
Let's see. All right, I think we have like spent this episode like holy. This is probably our longest episode to date. Honestly, 1 hour 8 minutes. Maybe we have some that are similar, but holy crap!
It's it is totally your fault for going off tangent after I asked about Final Fantasy 12.
Honestly, actually, I feel like you went off tangent, and I kind of okay, okay, sorry, yeah, yeah, we were both guilty. I'm gonna
No,
go against
that's
that.
that's the joke, dummy. I was the one that brought us off tangent.
Yeah, but it was a very enjoyable discussion. I love talking about Final Fantasy games, and I love shitting on Final Fantasy 12 because it makes people forget just how shitty Final Fantasy 8 is, which is actually one of my favorite games. So, you know, that's how I do it. I make people think Final Fantasy 12 is the worst game, which honestly I do feel it is. I would much rather enjoy the story of Final Fantasy 8, like even if the mechanics are shittier.
8 had a good story.
It did. It did. It had a fantastic story, and I think people forget that. Fantastic story. Um, but okay, Sinzar, thank you very much for saving this week's episode while Dream is saving dolphins or some shit somewhere. But I guess we're back to regular programming next week. You're also, of course, free to join whenever, of course, obviously. Maybe we're even gonna do a news day next week because I feel like you weren't really feeling it this week.
I was salty this week, and then you were AFK for like 2 weeks, so it's been a while.
Yes, yes. Maybe next week is news day. Actually, well, we definitely have to do one for the cow because then that's going to be very interesting for the cow unit.
Hopefully, it comes up this week. Then we're,
Oh,
we're due.
oh, we are due. Oh, shit. Okay. Well, let's see.
Well, we
Let's see.
well we haven't had it yet. We've only got 2 weeks left, so it's either this coming week or the next week. So hopefully, it's the coming week.
Yeah, because coming week is fine, right? Because DV only lasts for this week. No?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it
Dark
does. It
Vision
does.
closes at the end of the current week.
Right. Okay. All right. Well done. Thank you very much, Senzar. And thank you everyone that did join. Like we did get a slightly bigger roster at this weird time of day. But we're still like only a handful of people in here. But thank you everyone that joined and listening to our rants about Final Fantasy games and stuff. Thanks. Have a great day, everyone.
See you later.